Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now March 15th of 2021, and ever since the very end of The Mandalorian Season 2 and when Gina Carano got fired, a lot of fans around the world have been very skeptical about the future of Star Wars by Disney, Lucasfilm, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, etc., and whether or not they're going to really be able to pull things off. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, we do know that obviously Disney has a lot on their plate. They're already working on shows like Ahsoka. We've also got shows like Andor and Kenobi, as well as Mandalorian Season 3 and 4. That's just for starters. You know, that's just the tip of the iceberg here of what they're about to release. We got The Bad Batch coming out in May, specifically, of course, on May 4th. That's going to be, you know, one of their big animated TV series. It's actually going to be a spin-off to the Clone Wars, so they got a lot on their plate. There's no doubt about that. Now, the thing about Kathleen Kennedy, alright, we've talked about this. Now, the past couple of years have been nothing more than a force of destruction by Kathleen Kennedy. We saw what she did with The Last Jedi. We all witnessed what happened with Solo: A Star Wars Story's box office results and how she really mishandled the firing of the original directors/writers, and how she brought in Ron Howard at last minute, and how that cost Disney millions upon millions of dollars to reshoot 80% of the film. And then we have The Rise of Skywalker, right? Taking out so many different scenes and putting new ones in, and rejecting the concept of putting deleted scenes on the Blu-ray in order to hide from the fans that there is a better version of Episode 9 out there. So with that being said, what's really intriguing about all of this has all to do with Dave Filoni and George Lucas and what's going on behind the scenes as we speak. Now, given that, of course, The Mandalorian Season 3 is now in development by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, both Disney and Lucasfilm are primarily focused on their new Star Wars projects such as Ahsoka, Andor, and Kenobi, as well as others to be added on to the Disney Plus platform. However, since Gina Carano got fired, many changes have been made behind the scenes. Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy recently just canceled a major plan by creators Dave Filoni and George Lucas for the new Star Wars universe that was going to be a part of the Acolyte series. You guys may recall that in mid-2020, when Kathleen Kennedy had lost her creative power over a majority of TV shows, all what she was left with was the Acolyte show. However, both George and Dave Filoni at the time set some regulations for the TV show in order for some of the lore to be protected and unaltered. A regulation that Kathleen Kennedy is now breaking and ending, and replacing the lore with something new and changing parts of Star Wars history, once again breaking a promise for George Lucas and others. Much of this has to do with the lore of the Chosen One, and even the Jedi Order, as well as the Jedi Code and the Force, that will be dramatically altered in Star Wars The Acolyte show that George and Dave previously regulated and were promised by Kennedy that was not going to be modified with. Now, additionally, on top of that, Kathleen Kennedy is set to make Brie Larson's character Maeve in the show the true Chosen One instead of Anakin Skywalker. Both Dave Filoni and George Lucas's plan that was put into place was to protect the true meaning of the Jedi Order, the Force, and the concept of the Chosen One, something that Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye Headland will be changing in a significant way, and that Kennedy's altered version is moving ahead. Now, let's just, examine this, because this is a very scary moment for Star Wars fans, I'm sure. The fact that we have Kathleen Kennedy completely altering the Jedi Order, the Cosmic Force, and even, of course, the Jedi Code, and even the concept of the Chosen One at that. Now, we've talked about how Leslye and Kathleen have been planning to create their own version of Anakin Skywalker for a very long time, and that is, of course, the character of Maeve. This character is a Jedi god, in a sense, that was created by the Wills, that we're going to see in the Acolyte series. This is the character that is attached to Brie Larson. Honestly, I think it sounds ridiculous, having a Jedi god, quote-unquote. It just kind of makes all the other Jedi now seem way too underpowered or weak, in a sense, because you're overpowering one Jedi right there. So, that's the problem, is that what Kathleen Kennedy is trying to do She's trying to create this almighty, powerful Jedi God that's going to make us look back, or at least new fans, look back at the other Jedi like Luke, Anakin, Mace Windu, and just brush it off like they're nothing. That's Kathleen Kennedy's plan. She wants to make these characters in the High Republic era to seem so far superior than what we have in the originals and the prequels and shows like the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. I mean, you name it, right? So the other thing is this, is that we all remember that famous 2013 interview right after Disney took over Lucasfilm, where Kathleen Kennedy promised George Lucas on camera, that she was going to respect the characters, number one, respect the storylines, and respect George Lucas's vision. Those three promises were broken, and George was basically stabbed in the back. He did not see this coming. In fact, George Lucas felt that he made the best decision possible because Kathleen Kennedy had worked with Spielberg before in the past on numerous movies, mind you. Maybe she wasn't all that high in the ranks, but she was working with Lucas. Now, or should I say Spielberg. Now, the thing about this is that obviously George did not see this coming. One would argue that this is George Lucas's fault. I say it's not, because George did not really see what was happening before his own eyes, because Kathleen Kennedy had this plan all along to turn things backward. Now, the other thing is this, is that the reason as to why I'm not so worried about this, and I've talked about this lightly before in the past, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and George, they can easily just reverse all of what Kathleen Kennedy does in The Acolyte by making a different show that's going to introduce even more powerful characters. It's that simple. If they really want to do that, it's that simple. That's all they have to do, really. Think about it. You know, Kathleen Kennedy is doing that right now. How about Dave and Jon just do it right back at her? They could just do that. So, with that being said, here's a very important thing that I think a lot of fans absolutely need to know, is that the Acolyte series, it's still on track. Kathleen Kennedy is still in full creative control over the TV series until June of this year is when she's going to step down on a creative scale, because that's exactly what the higher-ups over at Disney want. They want her to back away from the creative side of things and to focus more on the business side of things to create a valuable product. So they feel that obviously Kathleen Kennedy's attention is moving away from the business aspect of Star Wars and more on the creative aspect. And that's why they want the Acolyte series to succeed, because if this becomes like a Batwoman 2.0 scenario, it's going to leave a very bad stain on the Star Wars franchise like The Last Jedi did. The Last Jedi is a stain that you cannot remove. You know, no matter what you apply to it, it's not going away. It's not. Because this is a movie that is not going to get better over time, as, you know, many creators in Hollywood have suggested that might be the case. I don't think it's going to be the case. Here we are, it's like 3.5 years after The Last Jedi released. It's still just as bad as it was when it released into theaters. I don't look back on it in a different way or in a different perspective. I just don't. Maybe, and only maybe, people would look back on it in a different way if they had created a part 2 to The Rise of Skywalker, where Luke had a lot of limelight and a lot of scenes in there, as Chris Terrio wanted to do. Surprisingly, he wanted a part 2 of Episode 9 to kind of insert a lot more Luke Skywalker. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.